All right, let's just dive right in. If you've ever looked at the media world and thought, wow, this is total chaos, well, you're not wrong. Today, we're going to try to make sense of it all. We're talking about the huge tectonic shifts that are changing everything from how Hollywood works to what you see on YouTube.
And to set the stage, just listen to this quote from analyst Doug Shapiro. The key word here is radically. We're not talking about small tweaks. We're talking about a change bigger and faster than anything we've seen in the last 10 years combined.
So where does all this transformation really start? It begins with the one resource that matters more than anything else in media, your attention. The entire business, all of it, is basically one giant battle for a piece of your brain. And that battle, it's hitting a wall.
And that wall looks like this: 13 hours. That's how much time the average adult in the US spends with media. Every single day. Think about that. That's over half of our waking lives. So here's the kicker. There's no more attention to create. The only way for any company to grow now is to steal attention from someone else. It's a total zero-sum game.
And what's fueling this war for our attention? It's these four massive trends. Think of them like a low background hum that's just constantly reshaping the industry. We've got fragmentation, disintermediation, concentration, and virtualization. These are the forces pulling the old world apart and building whatever comes next.
And this just perfectly shows you that first trend, fragmentation. Hollywood, the studios, they put out about 15,000 hours of content a year. Now look at YouTube, 300 million hours. That's not just a big difference, it's a completely different reality. The floodgates are open.
Now, to really understand where we're going, we first have to get a handle on the disruption we just lived through. This is Act 1 of our story, and honestly, it explains pretty much all of the problems we're seeing in Hollywood today.
And the key idea here is something called a moat. Just like a castle's defense, right? It's a barrier that protects a business. And for decades, the traditional TV business had these two incredibly powerful, deep moats that kept all the profits safe inside. The very first moat to crumble was distribution. See, it used to be insanely expensive and complicated to get a TV show to millions of homes. But then the internet came along, and suddenly, moving those video bits around the world became, well, almost free. And companies like Netflix just sprinted right across the now empty moat.
And here's the economic fallout. This is the real gut punch. That old cable bundle, it was a money printing machine. A single cable home brought in 3 times more subscription money and 7 times more ad money than the average streaming home does today. This exposes the core problem. For all its growth, streaming is just a much less profitable business.
And here's the result in one brutal number. Since 2018, profits for the major media companies' video divisions are down 40%. That's the painful bill for that first great disruption.
But just as the industry is still reeling from that first earthquake, a second, even bigger one is starting to rumble. Welcome to Act 2, the fall of the second great moat, the content moat.
You see, for years, media economics had this weird split. The cost to distribute stuff kept getting cheaper and cheaper, following that tech curve of Moore's Law. But the cost to actually make the great content, that just got more and more expensive, like paying for skilled labor or sushi and medical premiums, as the source puts it. And that leads us to probably the single most important question for the next decade of media. What happens when that tech-driven, cost-crushing effect of Moore's Law finally comes for the act of creation itself? What happens when generative AI makes high-quality content cheap to produce?
And I want to be clear, this is not a future tense question. It is happening right now. Look at this. A studio made an 87-minute animated film with a team of just 9 people for a tiny fraction of a traditional budget. Now, is it Pixar level? No. But this is the worst these tools will ever be. It only gets better and cheaper from here.
So here's the real point. For most creatives, the primary threat from AI isn't that a robot is going to come and take their job. The much bigger, much more systemic risk is that AI enables this absolute flood of good enough content that competes for attention and just completely craters the economic model that pays for the big, expensive stuff in the first place.
The potential scale of this flood it's just mind-boggling. Remember those 300 million hours uploaded to YouTube every year? Okay. If just 1/100th of 1% of that content becomes good enough to compete with professional TV, you would double Hollywood's entire yearly output instantly. So,
If high-quality content is about to become nearly infinite and basically free to make, what's actually valuable anymore? It's simple economics, right? When one thing becomes super abundant, other things, by definition, become incredibly scarce and way more valuable.
So this is the new playbook. This is what matters now. With content everywhere, value shifts. It shifts to curation, helping people find the good stuff in the noise. It shifts to building real fandoms and communities. It's in recognizable IP, in genuine human authenticity, in real-life experiences, and in deep, trusted relationships with talent. This is the new map for how to win.
Which leaves all of us with a final question to chew on. As a creator, as a company, even just as a person watching all this, in a world where you can watch, listen to, or play absolutely anything, at any time, what do you value most? The answer to that question is going to define the entire future of media. Thanks for tuning in.